Theresa, Mulvihill, welcome to Irish Startup TV.
Thank you very much.
I haven't introduced your business because you actually have two businesses.
I do, yes, that's correct.
So would you like to tell us a little bit about your businesses?
Sure. One is an old business and one is a new business from the old business. So one of the businesses is Smart Marketing Limited and the new business is Tamm Technologies. Tamm not standing for Theresa Mulvihill but Technology Aided Marketing Management. So Smart Marketing Limited was set up in 2002 and we provide marketing and business development consultancy to small businesses. So we help businesses start up and get off the ground, and then we help them grow along their way to become bigger businesses. So in 2010, after I had a family of my own and spent a little bit of time soul searching, I decided to set about researching another business for myself and look to the technology space and look to see how I could bottle what I do and turn it into a product. And that's where I came up with the idea of Tamm Technologies.
And you just had a baby?
Yeah, third baby. So I have 3 children. I have a little girl who's 7, a little boy who's 5, and I have a little boy called Tommy, a baby. So yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Typical sign, as if we're not juggling knives and balls, we throw a bob in the mix.
Fantastic. And that's a really interesting thing. So how influential was your family life?
Sure.
Before and after? So there's kind of, you had a business, then you had a family, then you have another business, and you said yourself you had a business that came from the business from the business.
Sure.
This is really interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, when I set up Smart Marketing Limited, it came out of looking for jobs, finding a niche in the market. I had nobody but me. I bought a computer. At the time, the projector cost me $5,500. You pick them up now for 300 quid.
It fits in your pocket.
Exactly. And this is a big chunky thing. And I set about and working with businesses. I'd always had big interest in business, but yeah, pretty much I was young. I had no ties, no mortgage. It was literally a case of, sure, look, if it doesn't work out, we'll find something else to do. And I did that then, 2002 until 2008, the first baby came along. And after that, everything changed. I mean, I love what I do. I love the people I work with. Thankfully, I love my family as well. But when baby number 1 came along, that is the dynamic changes. Things like maternity leave, you know, they're not really part of the course. And then baby number 2 came along very quickly. And at that stage, I was employing 5 people, including me. But the business was still completely centred and focused around me. And you have no other choice. You know, before I had my kids, my life was work and have a good time. And it was all great because it could be mixed together. And if you were really tired after a week or after a couple of weeks or a couple of months, you could get into bed and sleep for the weekend. Whereas now you're going home, you've got your kids, and the weekends are really, you know, pretty much about them. So yeah, so that was it. So I changed the business model. So I still have both businesses. They feed into each other and they work well off each other. But yeah, so it's busy.
So you mentioned that the business became very much focused around you, and like this is a huge thing for anybody starting a business. Yeah. So how did you manage to extract yourself from the business?
I made 2 attempts. With it being marketing consultancy and training, I have a bank of trainers or a group of trainers that I would work with and subcontract to, but I do all the marketing and business development pieces myself. And I find it hard with customers as well if I try to put somebody else in my place. So if I get work and I have to do
your business
training.
Is very much personality focused, that someone wants you if they hire you.
Absolutely. And so it's very difficult to scale up a business like that. So I tried by bringing on staff when we offered ancillary services and things like that. So worked with a bank or a pool of contractors first of all, and then actually brought people on payroll. But it was still coming back, it was all completely focused around me. And I mean, you go back to Joanne Hession's book, you know, Don't Get a Job, Build a Business. And I suppose I was being in the area that I'm in, I'm aware of strategy, I'm aware of being strategic, and I knew that something wasn't working for me, that I wasn't doing it properly. And when I set about researching, really and truly, again, people focused, you know, if you've got a product, if you've got a commodity, it's much easier to sell that on, which is why then I came up with the idea of the marketing project management software for small businesses.
And how did you go then from, was it a complete pivot, or was it an evolution from you providing a service where you're interacting with people to you providing a technology solution?
Yeah, it's interesting because the whole idea of the technology solution was to almost replace the consultancy business. But 2 years down the line now, with Tamm set up in January 2013, the two businesses are almost, they're probably coming to a point of where they're going to gel together.
And do you find one is kind of selling the other?
That's what's happening. That's exactly what's happening. So as much as I wanted them to be separate, you know, the forces of business and the external environment are pushing them back together. And
who's pushing who? Is it the technology pushing the consultancy, or vice versa, or a combination?
It's a combination. So for example, the consultancy business is where I suppose I would get my information from, and when you're I suppose
it informs the technology almost.
It does, but one of the things that I suppose why the smart marketing business is successful is it's all, I would be very customer centric. So it's all about the customer, all about their needs. So we decide where we want to get them to, we get them to that place, and then we review. And if they're happy where they are, that's it. We park it, and they can come back to me as they need me. And if they need more work, we move on. The whole idea of the software was that the business would be able to operate without me. So that they'd get their marketing plan, they'd fit it into a piece of software, they schedule it and automate it out. Lots and lots of systems out there. There's nothing new about marketing, project management or automation. It's a massive business in the States, but it's relatively new here in Ireland. And they're, to the best of what I can see, the product that I have is very unique. We merge the online with the offline, so we're not just focused on online. And our software is completely geared in terms of its usability, user-friendliness and price towards a small business. So it's providing a solution to the market that I would give consultancy to. But the intention with Tamm Technologies was that the business owner could log on, set it up and schedule it out and get on with their business. But what's happening is that they're coming back to me and saying, well, what do we put into it? Can you help us? Can you give us the plan? So the whole idea of them being able to actually just log on and work away without a little bit of advice is proven to be a little bit more of a challenge. We're getting through that by putting things like videos and things like that in the software for people to use, but it seems that they still want that little bit of hand holding.
I know from my experience of selling SaaS and also selling enterprise software that sometimes people just want to know that there's a human on the other end of the line, and all it takes is a quick email or a quick phone call just to allay concerns and to build a relationship. Yeah. And this is very much like, I think a lot of people forget. You don't forget because you built a business around people,
yes.
But a lot of other people forget that building technology is selling technology. It's still a relationships business.
Oh, it's huge relationships business. And again, the people that I suppose the team has moved to Tamm, so to speak, because that's the focus in terms of the growth and development moving forward. But it's all about the customer and anything we can do to make it easier for the customer. So I've had to give in to the customer's needs and what the customers are saying, where it's, you know, give us the plan, write us up the plan, and if they want the plan written, then we'll write the plan and we'll populate it for them, and then they can schedule and they can use the software.
It's very much customer focused, value add experience.
Absolutely. I suppose at the end of the day, coming from a marketing background, I don't have the technical background, so the building of the software and the technology piece of it has been a massive challenge for me.
So how did you go about doing that?
Yeah, well, it was.
That's amazing.
Well, I'm coming out the other side of it now. Yeah, it's been a long, hard journey. If I was a tech person, I may have had it written, you know, or developed and up and running in 6 months.
May not have been able to sell it though.
May not have been able to sell it.
Although that doesn't mean the tech people can't sell as well, but
no,
you know.
Yeah, no, for sure.
It's a diverse thing.
Yeah, I was lucky in that in the early days I had good colleagues that I could talk to and that, you know, helped me and gave me advice. Have we made, you know, bad decisions or wrong decisions along the way? We have. But yeah, we...
What was the process? Did you outsource? Did you hire a CTO?
What we did was, I suppose, to start off, the very first piece was, there was a friend of mine and they said, you know, before you do anything, you need to sit down and draw what this will look like. So I literally sat down, going back to the family again, sat down with blank paper and the kids' pens. Really? And I drew it out, and with that then I got somebody to do me up a mock-up. Right. And all of the technical pieces I've hired in, so I've been lucky in that. But
you say you're not technical, yet you designed the product.
I drew it.
But you designed
paper. Yeah, well, I suppose
brilliant.
Marketing would you would have plenty of creativity in you. I mean, that's, I suppose, marketing campaigns and things come from a person being creative creative marketing people are genuinely creative in terms of their angles and different things that they can come up with. So that piece would be there. I wouldn't say my drawing was very good now, but yeah, so that was that. But I've outsourced all of the technicals. So we outsourced it to a couple of consultants here in Ireland who kind of helped us with the initial architecture, and then we outsourced it. Then we got some prices here in Ireland, and we outsourced it to an offshore team. After a little, I suppose maybe about 12 months of that, we brought it back in and hired in a project manager, a technical project manager, and we've just changed development companies. So we've actually brought the whole lot back now to Ireland, which is great.
Really? Yeah. So it's been developed in Ireland as well?
Yeah, and we have our interns here in the Nexus Centre upstairs that we give an experience to and working with, and there's one of those guys now that we'll be taking on as an employee when they're finished their internship as well.
Fantastic. So that brings me back to 2002. Where were you in 2002?
Where was I? Okay, physically I was living in Athlone. Physically I was still living with my parents,
okay,
which is kind of ironic. And I had a job as a marketing person, and I was doing interviews for jobs, and I just spotted this trend. Wasn't getting the jobs, but wanted to know why. When I'd make the calls and to see who got the job or what's happening with it, they didn't hire anybody, which meant I saw this niche in the market as a marketing consultant for small businesses. Not a consultant that would come in and charge thousands a month or tens of thousands a year, but somebody at a level and a pace that small businesses could work with. Became very busy with that. Then started to look at training to deal with the micro business market and the startup, and again progressed with that. Yeah, and then with the dawning of the online, I actually came back here into UL and did a master's in international entrepreneurship. And it was in Dr. Briga Heinz's class where I suppose the penny dropped with this idea. Yeah.
Amazing.
And then we started to research it. And again, being the customer-centric, where the technical piece, because I'm not technical, it was maybe a blessing in disguise. And the reason everything took longer was because I was constantly out there, be it drawings, be it mock-ups, be it a beta site, asking the customers what did they think, what features. I mean, the initial vision that I had for Tamm software was very different to what we actually have, and that's all been based on tweaks that have come back from customers.
It's amazing to think that now there's this centre for young people, giving them the confidence that it's okay to do entrepreneurship. Come, learn from us, and then grow and do your own thing, and we'll support you.
Yeah.
How's that looking back, and how that's changed in the last 13 years since you were starting out?
Yeah, I suppose I always had an interest in business. I remember, being a kid watching the Late Late Show and seeing Pádraig Ó Céide or Aaron being interviewed on the Late Late and thinking, pretty wow. For some reason, Richard Branson, other kids might have been checking out other stuff, but I thought Richard Branson was dead cool. I went on to college then, and people like Judy Green from Judy Green Pottery in Galway, and I worked in nightclubs in various different places when I was in college there, and the owners of those businesses always infatuated me, their stories. So I kind of got stuck in and volunteered with small businesses while I was in college. So I was always attracted. Did they call it entrepreneurship back then? No, they didn't. And I think at one stage I remember a guy that lived nearby to us calling himself an entrepreneur, and my father said he was only a chancer.
Brilliant. Okay, so this is really interesting. So how do you think, do people still think in Ireland entrepreneurs are chancers?
I don't know. We have degrees and we have masters about it now,
Yeah.
so I'd imagine it's being recognised as something more than a chancerism, so to speak. Do you know what I mean? I suppose you go back, what is a chancer? Do you take a level of risk? Do you put things on the line? Do you put the family, the house? Do you put all sorts of pressures on everybody? If that's what being a chancer is, then maybe it is still chancerism. But yeah, I think it's a lot more respected now, and I think it's a good thing. Self-employed entrepreneurs, whatever way you want to put it. I wouldn't consider myself an entrepreneur. I'd see myself as somebody self-employed and slogging hard. I would see, you could name out a number of people, but you're talking about Anne Herity, the likes of CPL, people like that I would consider an entrepreneur.
So how do you personally define entrepreneurship?
Yeah, after doing a master's in international entrepreneurship, you think,
being an entrepreneur for 13 years.
Well, yeah, and again, it goes back to it. It's like, there are different people I would meet and we'd say you're a serial entrepreneur and they'd shy away from it. I think there's a bit of that with it.
Yeah, Alan Sugars, or Lord Sugars, hates that term entrepreneur.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's a term, you know, it's like calling somebody a bookkeeper or a product builder or a farmer or whatever. I think it's, you know, the person behind it is what defines whether, I think that's what defines whether it's a chancerism or whether it's somebody that's dedicated to the team of people that are working under them, and that they're focused on making sure their wages are paid and their families are taken care of. There's a lot of responsibility comes with it. Final question, what's next on the roadmap? Have you anything that you want to share with us? I suspect that there's going to be a whole load of more exciting stories. Well, hopefully, yeah. Tamm is, I suppose, in its infancy stage still, in that it's just this year now that we've actually got out there and started to make sales. So we're looking to grow the team, grow the technical team here in Ireland, and grow the sales team and grow sales. And we'd also be looking then toward the UK for 2016 to generate some sales and some traction over there. So yeah, the focus now will be on developing Tamm technologies and developing that into a SaaS model. We originally wanted it to be SaaS, but as the model has gone here in Ireland, it's not SaaS and it's defined, or, you know, a state, but it will be moving it towards that. And lots of other development. We have a massive roadmap ahead of us if we can get it all done. So and sorry, I said final question, but you just raised a very interesting topic. How do you feel that, where is SaaS at in Ireland? You mentioned it's not really defined. Well, what we have found, you know, the SaaS model is great for going global, and it's exactly where we want to be. But I don't know about larger businesses, but certainly Tamm's particular market, which is a good thing at the moment for where we're at, they'd much rather give you a cheque for 12 months than pay it online with their credit card. That's really interesting. There's a couple of things going on there, perhaps trust and also the relationships piece, and also going back to this point of sometimes people just want to have the bit of human interaction. Absolutely. You know, you could be in front of a customer, you could say, I'll tell you what, we'll log in here now and we'll set you up and you can pay that through PayPal. And the next thing, well, actually, can you send me an invoice? Yeah. And even the whole piece of, you know, driving people to the site and getting them to log on that way, that's a whole process. And from even speaking to my colleagues around the country that are at the global stage, and, you know, they're driving sales internationally as well, that it's the international markets that will log on and buy through the SaaS, and the Irish people still actually pick up the phone or email you and say, can you give me a call? That's really interesting. I think I certainly, in my experience, it's actually a global thing. You'll always get people like that, and it's really interesting that you find that, right? Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, to look at, we'll see how it goes from here on. At the moment, it's about getting cash in the bank, and whether you want to call it SaaS or whether they want me to send them an invoice, we'll be driving sales on either way. Well, Theresa, it's been really, really inspiring. So thank you so much for your time and for speaking to us. Thank you. It's a pleasure. Thank you.